My future daughter-in-law was asking about my medication again. Third time this week. I watched her lean against the kitchen counter in my modest apartment, her designer heels clicking on the linoleum as she shifted her weight, trying to look casual. "Just wondering, Richard," Victoria said, flashing that perfect smile that had charmed my son David for the past 2 years. "Do you take anything for your heart? David mentioned you had some issues." I set down my coffee mug slowly. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the old refrigerator. David had stepped out to get bagels from the deli downstairs. We were supposed to be planning their wedding, going over the guest list. But this was the third time Victoria had steered the conversation to my health, my finances, my end-of-life plans. "Just the usual stuff for a man my age," I said. "Nothing special." Her eyes darted to the cabinet where I kept my pills. Quick. Practiced. Then back to me with that smile. "I'm 72 years old. I live in a rent-controlled apartment in Queens. I drive a 2008 Honda Civic. My clothes come from discount stores. To anyone looking, I'm exactly what I appear to be. A retired postal worker, living on a pension, trying to make ends meet. My son David works as a high school teacher. He's a good kid, kind, maybe too kind. Victoria comes from money, real money. Her father owns a chain of luxury car dealerships across Connecticut. When David first brought her home 2 years ago, I was happy for him. She seemed polite, attentive. She laughed at his jokes. She wore modest clothes when she visited me, even though I'd seen the photos on her social media, the yacht parties, the European vacations, the $5,000 handbags. David came back with the bagels, and Victoria's whole demeanor changed. She was suddenly warm again, looping her arm through his, kissing his cheek. We spent the next hour going over wedding details. The venue, her father's country club. The guest list, 300 people, mostly from her side. The honeymoon, 2 weeks in Bali, her father's wedding gift. Every detail screamed money that David didn't have. Money I couldn't give him. "Don't worry about the costs, Richard," Victoria said as we wrapped up. "Daddy's taking care of everything. He just wants David to be happy." She squeezed my hand. "And he wants you to be comfortable too. We were thinking, after the wedding, maybe you'd like to move closer to us. We found this wonderful assisted living facility in Greenwich. Very affordable, very nice." My blood went cold, but I kept my face neutral. I'd practiced that skill for 40 years. "That's thoughtful," I said, "but I'm fine here." "We'll talk about it more," she said, patting my hand like I was a child. After they left, I sat in my recliner for a long time, staring at the wall. The signs had been there. Small things. Victoria always steering conversations to my age, my limitations. Her casual comments about how hard it must be for David to worry about me. Her questions about my will, disguised as concern. And now the medication questions. I'd seen this pattern before, many times. In my old life, the wedding was 6 weeks away. The engagement party was this Saturday, a massive event at the Connecticut Country Club, 200 guests. Victoria's father had insisted on it. Insisted on flying in David's scattered relatives, putting them up in hotels. "Families should be together," he'd said. Thursday evening, David called me. "Dad, can I come by? Alone?" He arrived an hour later. His face was pale. He looked like he'd been crying. My son, 38 years old, a man who stood 6 feet tall and coached the school's basketball team, looked like a scared kid. "I need to show you something," he said. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands, opened his messages, scrolled to a thread with Victoria's younger sister, Melissa. Melissa had always seemed nice, quieter than Victoria. She'd just graduated college. She was supposed to be a bridesmaid. The messages were from 3 hours ago. Melissa, "David, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch this happen." David, "What are you talking about?" Melissa, "Victoria, what she's planning, what Dad's planning." Then screenshots. Text messages between Victoria and her father. Between Victoria and someone named Marcus, her ex-boyfriend, apparently. Between her father and his lawyer. I read them all. Each one made my chest tighter. Victoria to her father. "The old man keeps his pills in the kitchen cabinet. High blood pressure, blood thinners, diabetes medication. Marcus said, if we adjust his doses slowly, it'll look natural. Heart failure. No one questions that at his age." Her father's response, "Good." And David? Victoria, He'll be devastated. We'll be so supportive. I'll be the grieving daughter-in-law who stepped up. Once Richard's gone and David inherits whatever small amount is there, we'll have full control. A year after the wedding, maybe 2, we'll divorce. Daddy's lawyer says we can claim David's abusive. With my family's connections, I'll get everything. Teacher's pension, the life insurance, whatever else exists. Marcus to Victoria. You sure this is worth it? The guy lives in a shit apartment. Victoria. It's not about him, babe. It's about David. Dad ran a background check. David's the sole beneficiary of some trust. Won't release details, but it's significant. Plus the optics. My father's running for state senate next year. Having a son-in-law who's a beloved teacher, helping care for his elderly father. Perfect image. Then when poor Richard passes, and David can't handle the grief, I'm the strong one who tried to make it work. There were more. Plans to move me to the assisted living facility, which was actually a psychiatric care facility where Victoria's father had connections. Plans to have me declared incompetent. Plans to isolate David from his friends, from his colleagues. Plans to destroy my son's life. David was sobbing now. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't see it. I thought she loved me. I thought, his voice broke. I pulled him into a hug. My son, my boy, the kid I raised alone after his mother died of cancer when he was 12. The kid who brought home stray cats and stood up to bullies and became a teacher because he wanted to help people. It's okay, I said quietly. It's going to be okay. We have to call the police, David said. We have to. No, I said. Not yet. He pulled back, confused. Dad, they're planning to kill you. They're planning to... I know, son, but we need more evidence. We need to be smart about this. I kept my voice calm, measured. The voice I'd used in a different life. The engagement party is Saturday. That's 2 days away. Can you hold it together until then? I don't know if I can face her. Face them. You can. You're stronger than you know. I gripped his shoulders. Trust me. Can you do that? He nodded, still crying. And David, don't tell Victoria that Melissa showed you the messages. Act normal. Can you do that? Why? Because I need them to think everything is going according to plan. After David left, I sat in my recliner again. But this time, I wasn't just a worried father. I was making calculations, running through scenarios, identifying assets and liabilities. I picked up my phone. The contacts list showed the usual things. David, the deli, the doctor's office, a few old postal worker buddies. But I scrolled to the bottom, to the numbers I hadn't called in 15 years. I dialed. A man answered on the second ring. Yeah? It's Richard. Silence. Then, holy shit. Falcon? That you? I need a favor, Tony. 15 years you've been dark. 15 years. And now you call because you need something? My son's in trouble. Another pause. What kind of trouble? The kind that requires our particular skill set. Jesus. Falcon. You know I'm retired. We're all retired. I know. But I'm calling in every chip I'm owed. From you. From Marcus Chen. From Sarah. From all of you. Tony let out a long breath. It's that serious? They're planning to kill me and destroy my son's life. Give me 4 hours, Tony said. I'll make some calls. I spent those 4 hours going through my closet. Past the cheap shirts and the discount pants, there was a locked box in the back. I hadn't opened it in 15 years. Inside were things from my old life. IDs, passports, a phone, files, and photos. Photos of me 30 years younger, in a suit, standing outside Quantico. Photos of my team, photos of operations. Commendations from directors whose names would make most Americans stop and stare. Richard Chen wasn't my real name. It was the name I took when I retired, when I decided to disappear. My real name was Richard Falcon. Special Agent Richard Falcon. 28 years with the FBI. 15 of those years in the Criminal Investigative Division. 5 years running an undercover task force that took down 3 major organized crime families. The last 8 years before retirement, I was the assistant director in charge of the New York field office. I'd put away mobsters, corporate criminals, corrupt politicians. I'd testified before Congress. I'd been on the president's shortlist for FBI director twice, turned it down both times. When my wife died and I saw what the job was doing to my relationship with David, I made a choice. I took my pension, changed my name through a contact in witness protection, and disappeared into the most boring life I could find. Postal worker Richard Chen, invisible, harmless, there for David. But apparently, being invisible made me look vulnerable, weak, an easy target. That was a mistake. Tony called back 3 hours later. I've got Chen, Sarah, Rodriguez, and Martinez on standby. They all owe you. They're all in. What's the play? I told him. Jesus, Falcon, he said when I finished. That's cold. That's really cold. They were going to kill me and frame my son. Fair point. We'll be ready. Friday, I went through my usual routine. Breakfast at the deli, a walk in the park, watched some TV. But I was also making calls. Calling in favors from people I hadn't spoken to in years. A federal prosecutor who owed me for a case I'd handed her gift wrapped. A journalist at the Times who I'd given an exclusive to. A private investigator who I'd helped get his license. A judge, a city councilman, a police captain. By Friday night, the pieces were in place. Saturday afternoon, David picked me up for the engagement party. His hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. I can't do this, Dad, he whispered. I can't look at her and pretend. Yes, you can. You're going to walk in there. You're going to smile. You're going to play the part of the happy groom. Can you do that for me? He nodded, but he looked sick. The country club was exactly what I expected. Massive, pristine, the kind of place where memberships cost 6 figures, and the staff all wore white gloves. The engagement party was set up in their largest ballroom, crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, a string quartet, tables laden with food that probably cost more than my monthly rent. 200 people. Victoria's family, her father's business associates, David's relatives who'd flown in, his cousins from Ohio, my sister from Florida, his old college friends. Everyone dressed in their best, celebrating young love. Victoria saw us arrive. She rushed over, all smiles, kissing David, hugging me. Richard, I'm so glad you made it. You look wonderful. She was wearing a white dress. Appropriate, I suppose, for an engagement party. She looped her arm through David's and paraded him around the room, introducing him to people, showing him off. The beloved teacher, the devoted son, the perfect catch. Her father, William Hartford, found me by the bar. Big man, expensive suit, politician's smile. Richard, good to see you. Can I get you a drink? Just water, thank you. Come on, it's a celebration. Have some champagne. I have to be careful with my medications, I said pleasantly. His eyes flickered, just for a second. Then the smile was back. Of course. We have to take care of ourselves at our age, don't we? He clapped me on the shoulder. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about that assisted living place Victoria mentioned. I took the liberty of setting up a tour for next week. On me, just to see the place. Beautiful facility. My mother was there before she passed. Very peaceful. That's kind of you, I said. It's the least I can do. David's going to be family soon. That makes you family too. He squeezed my shoulder. A little too hard. Family takes care of each other. I nursed my water and watched. Victoria flitting around the room. Her father working the crowd, shaking hands, building his political network. David looking increasingly pale, barely holding it together. Melissa, Victoria's sister, staying in the corner, looking miserable. At 7 o'clock, the toasts began. Victoria's father took the microphone first. Talked about love, about family, about how proud he was of his daughter, about what a fine young man David was, about how they represented the future. Then Victoria's maid of honor. Then David's best friend from college. Then Victoria took the mic. I just want to say, she said, voice trembling with emotion, how blessed I am to have found David, to have found a man who's so kind, so caring, so dedicated to helping others. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. Oscar-worthy performance. And I want to thank Richard, David's father, for raising such an incredible man. Richard, you're alone now. And I just want you to know you're not alone anymore. You have us. You have me. I promise to take care of your son. And I promise that we'll take care of you too. The room applauded. People dabbed at their eyes. Beautiful sentiment. Beautiful lies. Then it was David's turn. He stood up, took the microphone. His hand was shaking. "Thank you all for coming," he said. I wanted to say something." He looked at me. I gave him a small nod. 3 days ago, I learned something that changed everything. I learned the truth about the woman I was going to marry. The room went quiet. Victoria's smile faltered. "David, sweetheart, what?" "I learned that you and your father have been planning to kill my dad." Gasps. Shocked murmurs. William Hartford stood up, face red. "What the hell are you talking about?" David's voice got stronger. "I have the text messages. Plans to tamper with his medication, plans to have him declared incompetent, plans to isolate me, divorce me, and take everything." He looked at Victoria. Her face had gone white. "Was any of it real? Did you ever actually love me?" She recovered quickly, started crying. "David, I don't know what you're talking about. Who told you these lies? Was it Melissa? She's always been jealous." "It was Melissa," David said. "She couldn't watch you destroy someone else. She showed me everything." William Hartford was moving toward David now. "You need to shut your mouth, boy. You're making wild accusations." "I'm not done," David said. He looked at me. "I also learned something else 3 days ago. I learned the truth about my father." This was my cue. I stood up from my seat. "My name isn't Richard Chen," I said clearly. My voice carried across the silent ballroom. "It's Richard Falcon. Until 15 years ago, I was the assistant director in charge of the FBI's New York field office. You could have heard a pin drop. I spent 28 years investigating people like you, William. People who think money and connections make them untouchable. People who destroy lives because they can." I walked slowly toward the center of the room. When my wife died, and I saw what my job was doing to my relationship with my son, I retired, changed my name, became invisible. I wanted to be there for David, just be his dad, nothing more. Victoria was backing away. Her father had frozen in place. "But you made a mistake," I continued. "You targeted my son. You thought I was just a weak old man, an easy mark." I smiled. "I'm not." William found his voice. "This is insane. You can't prove any of this." "Actually, I can." I nodded toward the entrance. The doors opened. Tony walked in first, still looking like he could bench press a car even at 65. Behind him came Sarah Chen, the journalist from the Times. Behind her came 2 NYPD detectives. Behind them came a man in an expensive suit, the federal prosecutor. "Sarah," I said, "would you like to explain what you found?" Sarah stepped forward, holding a tablet. 3 days ago, Richard Falcon contacted me with evidence of conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and elder abuse. I spent the last 72 hours investigating with law enforcement. We found communications between Victoria Hartford and Marcus Chen, detailing plans to poison Richard Falcon. We found financial records showing William Hartford has been under investigation for tax fraud and embezzlement. We found evidence that this wasn't the first time William and Victoria have done this before. 2 previous relationships of Victoria's ended with suspicious deaths of elderly family members and insurance payouts, one in Massachusetts, one in Rhode Island. Both cases were ruled accidental at the time. Both cases are being reopened. William Hartford's face had gone from red to gray. "You can't, this is entrapment. This is justice," I said quietly. One of the detectives stepped forward. "William Hartford, Victoria Hartford, you're under arrest." He read them their rights, while the ballroom erupted in chaos. Guests were shouting, people were crying, cameras were flashing. Sarah had brought a photographer. Victoria was screaming now, being handcuffed. "You bastard! You think you're so smart? You think—" She lunged toward me, but the detective held her back. "You're just a pathetic old man. You were easy. You were supposed to be easy." "I know," I said. "That's what I wanted you to think." As they were led away, I turned to find David. He was standing in the middle of the chaos, tears streaming down his face. Not sad tears. Relief. Liberation. I walked to him, put my hand on his shoulder. "It's over, son." He hugged me tight. "Why didn't you tell me? All these years, why didn't you tell me who you really were?" "Because I didn't want to be Special Agent Falcon anymore. I just wanted to be your dad." The party ended, obviously. Guests filtered out in stunned silence. David's relatives approached me. Cautiously, they'd known me as Richard Chen, the postal worker. Now they were learning I'd been someone else entirely. My sister pulled me aside. "All these years," she whispered. "All these years. I thought you'd just given up. Given up on your career, your life. I thought you'd just accepted being small." "I didn't give up anything," I said. "I chose what mattered most." Over the next week, the story exploded. Sarah's article in the Times went viral. FBI legend emerges from retirement to save son from gold digger murder plot. My old colleagues started calling. The Bureau wanted to do a press conference. The district attorney wanted me to testify. But more importantly, Victoria and William Hartford were denied bail. The evidence was overwhelming. Marcus Chen, the ex-boyfriend, flipped on them immediately, confirming everything in exchange for a lighter sentence. The Massachusetts and Rhode Island cases were reopened, and evidence started piling up. Victoria's first fiancé's father had died of heart failure 6 months after their engagement, and Victoria had inherited through a will that was changed weeks before his death. The second case was eerily similar. William Hartford's political career was over. His business was being investigated, his assets were being frozen, and Victoria was looking at murder charges in 3 states. Melissa, Victoria's sister, reached out to David to apologize. "I should have said something sooner," she told him. "I saw what happened with the others. I knew what Tori was like, but she's my sister, and I was scared. I'm so sorry." David, being David, forgave her, even invited her to coffee to talk. She was a victim too, in her own way. Growing up in that family, watching her sister and father operate. As for me and David, we had a lot to talk about. He wanted to know everything, my real career, my real past, why I'd hidden it. We spent hours in my apartment, me showing him the box from my closet, the photos, the commendations, telling him stories I'd never shared. "I'm proud of you, Dad," he said finally. "Not because of the FBI stuff. I mean, that's incredible. But I'm proud because you gave it all up for me. Because you chose to be present, to be there. How many kids get that?" "You deserved it," I said simply. "So, what now?" he asked. "Do you go back? Do you become Richard Falcon again?" I thought about it. The Bureau had reached out with a consulting offer. Some of my old colleagues wanted me to do private security work, make real money for a change. There were opportunities, but I looked around my modest apartment, at my old recliner, at the photos of David on the walls, him graduating high school, graduating college, at his first teaching job. "I think I'll stay Richard Chen," I said. "I like this life. It's quiet, it's real, and I get to be close to you." David smiled. "The rent-controlled apartment and everything?" "The rent-controlled apartment and everything. What if I upgrade you? Now that everyone knows you're secretly wealthy." "I'm not wealthy," I laughed. "I have a decent pension, but I'm not." "Dad," Sarah did some digging. "Apparently your FBI pension, plus investments, plus some consulting fees you never touched. You're sitting on about $4 million. I blinked. "I am? You never looked at your accounts?" "I lived on the pension. That was enough. I didn't need more." David shook his head, laughing. "So you really were just living as a postal worker because you wanted to, not because you had to. Money doesn't buy happiness, son. You know that." "I do now," he said quietly. 3 months later, David was still teaching, still living in his small apartment, still driving his beat-up car. Victoria and William Hartford were awaiting trial. The evidence was overwhelming, and their lawyers were trying to negotiate plea deals. Melissa Hartford had legally changed her name and moved to California, cutting ties with her family entirely. She sent David a Christmas card with a long apology note. He kept it. As for me, I still live in my rent-controlled apartment in Queens. I still drive my 2008 Civic. I still shop at discount stores. I did accept a consulting gig with the Bureau teaching classes at Quantico on organized crime investigations, a few times a year. The money goes into a trust for David, though I haven't told him that yet. But the best part? David comes over every Sunday for dinner. We cook together. We watch basketball. We talk about his students, about his life, about his hopes for the future. He's started dating again, a librarian from his school. She's kind, genuine. When she found out about everything that happened, she said, "I'm so sorry you went through that," and gave him a hug. No drama, No agenda, just empathy. Last Sunday, he brought her by to meet me. Her name is Sophie. She wore jeans and a sweater. She brought homemade cookies. She asked me about my postal worker days, about growing up in New York, about my favorite books. Never once asked about the FBI stuff, even though I know she knows. After she left, David helped me clean up the dishes. So, I asked, "What do you think?" "I think she's nothing like Victoria," he said. "That's a low bar." He laughed. "No, I mean, she's real. She sees me. Not what I can give her, not who I'm connected to, just me." "That's good, son." "You know what's funny?" he said, drying a plate. "All my life, I thought I was just the son of a postal worker, that I came from nothing special, that I had to prove myself. And now I find out my dad was this legendary FBI agent. And you know what? It doesn't change anything. You were always enough, just as you were. I had to turn away so he wouldn't see me tearing up. That's all I ever wanted to be. You succeeded, Dad. You really did." Later that night, after David left, I sat in my recliner. The old apartment was quiet. The refrigerator hummed. The street outside was settling into evening. I thought about all the choices I'd made. Leaving the bureau, hiding my identity, living small. At the time, some people thought I'd lost my mind. My colleagues couldn't understand why I'd give up power, prestige, the potential to lead the entire FBI. But sitting there, thinking about my son's smile, his laugh, the fact that he knew he could call me any time and I'd be there, that was worth more than any title, than any case, than any accolade. William and Victoria Hartford thought I was weak because I chose a simple life. They thought being invisible meant being powerless. They thought being humble meant being helpless. They learned otherwise. Not because I came out of retirement in some blaze of glory. Not because I showed off my power and connections. But because when it mattered, when my son needed me, I had the skills, the network, and the experience to protect him. And then I went right back to being Richard Chen, postal worker, living in my rent-controlled apartment, driving my old Civic, because that's who I chose to be, not who circumstances forced me to be, who I chose. The TV was showing the late news, a segment about the Hartford case. The anchor mentioned my name, former FBI legend Richard Falcon, and showed an old photo of me in a suit at a press conference from 30 years ago. I changed the channel, found a basketball game, made some tea. Tomorrow I'd go to the deli for breakfast, take my walk in the park, maybe call David to see if he wanted to catch a movie. Just another day in the life of Richard Chen, retired postal worker. Nothing special, nothing extraordinary. Exactly the way I wanted it.